whether or not a sentence was too wordy. So we're just going to do a mini lesson on that today. And before we get started, I want to show you this little video clip. How do I get it to project?
You have to plug it in.
Oh, okay. I just assumed it was up there.
Sorry.
No, that's all right.
There you go.
Okay.
Plug that into the side. Yeah.
You guys should have told me. I was just talking to you like a crazy person.
They're so used to it, because I do that too.
You're a little late now, though. I figured it out before you told me.
I'm always a little late.
I guess. Took you a moment to process what? Okay, it's on here now. Nope, it'll only play on the big screen. Full screen is unavailable. Okay, we can see. Yeah, that should be true.
We all know the scene. Dorothy closes her eyes and repeats the good witch's mantra. No coordinates exist like one's domicile. No coordinates exist like one's domicile. No coordinates exist like one's domicile. Only Dorothy doesn't say that. She says 5 one-syllable words. There's no place like home. Each a word you probably learned in your first year of speaking. Each perfectly concise. It's not that L. Frank Baum didn't have a thesaurus. It's that in most cases, $10 words fail. Would Aerosmith have had a hit with Ambulate This Direction? Probably not. Would Patrick Henry have ignited a revolution by saying, provide me with liberty or bestow upon me fatality? Unlikely. When it comes to words, bigger isn't always better. $10 words are rendered worthless if they're not understood. That's not to say every piece of literature should be written at a 4th grade reading level, but it is important to know your audience. If you're a novelist, your audience is probably expecting 300 pages of vivid descriptors. At the very least, they're expecting you won't use the same 50 words to fill those pages. But most of us don't have the luxury of a captive audience. We're competing against a whole world of distractions, and we're fighting for space in an attention span that continues to shrink across generations. So get to the point already. Variety may be the spice of life, but brevity is its bread and butter. So when it comes to $10 words, save your money and buy a scrambled board.
Okay. So the quote that really struck me from that one is that most of us don't have the luxury of a captive audience. So just think about that for a moment. When you're writing for school, your teachers are going to read it. You know that. Sometimes you'll do peer review, and sometimes other students will read it. But for the most part, once you get out of school, once you get out of college, anything that you write, you have to bring your audience in, and you have to get them interested in what you're writing. And that's not just for writing, that's for speech too. So if you want to persuade somebody about your views on politics or religion, or you want to get somebody to buy a product, or you want somebody to listen to your friend who's a local artist, you have to persuade them, and you have to get them to listen to you. And you don't have that audience already there waiting for you. Most of us don't already have a captive audience. You have to bring those people in, and you have to gain your own following. And to do that, you have to be interesting, you have to be witty. But I also want you to consider ways that you would keep your audience once you get them. And in keeping your audience, you also have to consider what are some things that you can do to lose your audience really quickly. And the fastest way to do that is to be super wordy. So, and that goes for speech and writing. So one of the things you really want to avoid in being wordy is using redundant phrases. So phrases that essentially repeat themselves. So all of the ones on the board are examples of this. Close proximity, added bonus, vitally important. All of these things are there extra words that you don't need to say. You could just as easily say one of the words, you don't need them both. You're just muddling up your sentence. Especially if you use these a lot in your writing, it's going to quickly increase your word count in a way that you don't want, because you're adding a bunch of unnecessary words and phrases that are not adding anything to your sentence. Anonymous stranger doesn't mean the same thing. Current trend. A trend is by definition current. So you don't need to say both of them. I was telling first and second hour, the one that bothers me most on here is electronic email. It doesn't say electronic mail. so don't do that. Is anyone guilty of using these a lot? Anything on the list? Mrs. Stalder said she was. Close proximity, yeah. Yep. Someone in first hour said that they use exact same all the time. It's the exact same thing, yeah. And it's fine for informal conversation, but in your writing, you really don't ever need to use phrases like this. They're just gonna muddle up your sentence and make it confusing. So the second big thing that you have to watch out for is using unnecessary filler words. And this is horrible. Everyone is so bad about it, everybody. I'm terrible at it. Every person who's a good speaker or a good writer was probably terrible at it at one point, or is still terrible at it. That's a filler, I just said that. You have to stop and think for a minute, and so you want to fill that space with something instead of pausing. It sounds less awkward, but it's a quick way to get people to stop listening to you because they're sick of hearing you say and like and really all the time. It goes the same way in your writing. And the first bullet point here, I think, in my opinion, you almost never need to say these in your writing. Sometimes you will, but for the most part, these are just, you don't need to say it. So your audience already knows that because you're saying something that you believe it. They don't need you to restate, I believe this, because they already know that. And you're just making your sentence longer than it needs to be and more muddled. Keep doing it now. The second one, believe it or not, as a matter of fact, these are just phrases that we say all the time in speech, and so it's natural to want to have them to your writing, but you don't need them. Very, extremely, totally. These can sometimes add emphasis, so they can be useful in a way, but a lot of times there's a more powerful way that you could word it. So if you want to say that the store was very busy, you could easily say the store was bustling instead. Just replace it with a more powerful word, a stronger word, that's going to make your writing sound more sophisticated, more educated, and less muddled together. The big one now that people always say in speech is literally. You hear that all the time. I'm literally starving. But you don't need to say that. You can just say I'm starving. You're just adding more work for yourself and more work for the person that's trying to listen to you or trying to read your writing. Just is a really big one. You will say like I was just wondering when you could just say I was wondering. People will try to use those words just like kind of soften what they're trying to say. So it sounds softer. It sounds more polite. But if you don't use them, your words will sound more assertive and you'll sound more sure of yourself. And that's what you really want to do, especially when you're trying to sway and convince people. And then almost really and truly, especially really, you almost never need to use the word really in academic writing. And then the third thing you really want to avoid, which this one is kind of the tricky one, but I promise it's not as confusing as it sounds, is nominalization. Which a nominal is a noun, so nominalization just means taking something that should normally be an adjective and turning it into the noun form. So like in this example here, you should really just say his information was inaccurate, but to sound fancier and increase the word count, people will sometimes say like the accuracy of his information was lacking. So you're taking inaccurate, which is an adjective, and taking it into a noun to make it the subject of the sentence, and it's twice as long as it needs to be. And if you keep doing that throughout your whole paper, people will be like, get to the point, because you're not doing that. And then the second example, her extraness is too much. I had to make up a word to make that one work. When you could just say she's extra. So that's another example of that. This one is just more examples of common filler words. So we can look at it really quick. That is another one.
That shows up on the PDF, and the next one that you guys just need to eliminate from your writing is due to the fact. Just get rid of it. You don't use it correctly, it usually ends up causing a fragment, so just throw away due to the fact. You never use it right.
If you don't need it, just cut it out.
Yeah.
A big one is that. Now this one doesn't seem like that big of a deal to me because it only increases the word count by 1. But if you read these two, the second one really is better. You could say she swore it would never happen again, but some people will try to say she swore that it would never happen again. People think they have to add that in there, but you don't. We already talked about just, only, and really. The example here, she just didn't know what to do, and you could just say she didn't know what to do. It's more, see how it sounds more sure, like you're more confident in what you're saying. Slightly, almost, seem, same thing here. People will say, don't tell me what something seems like, tell me what it is. So above the clouds, the sun was almost blinding. You could just say above the clouds, the sun was blinding. It's more sure, it's more definite. Perhaps, maybe, simply, somehow. These ones I would say you will need to use sometimes, but a lot of times they're filler. So really just read over your sentences that you're writing and ask yourself, is this actually adding any meaning to my sentence? Because a lot of times the answer is no, and you can easily take it out and make your writing more clear and concise. Same with absolutely, basically, and actually. I use basically all the time when I don't need to. So ask yourself when you're using these words, do I really need to add that into my writing? Is it adding anything? Is it helping my reader understand the sentence? Because sometimes it'll actually cause them to have less understanding of what you're trying to get at. Sort of, kind of, a little, same with the same thing earlier. Don't tell me what it's like, tell me what it is. Her cut sort of hurt. Her cut hurt. It's more definite. And then Gary, we already talked about. And then these are just some phrases. With these verbs over here, people will say brought up, or meet with, or sold off. You can just say brought, meet, or sold, and it would be more clear and more concise. One more infographic. I think this one had a really nice quote in the beginning, so I'll read it to you. So wordy sentences contain many unnecessary words. So it's not, like, the problem is not that the sentence is long, because sometimes you really do need to use a lot of words to convey, like, a complicated, complex thing that you're trying to illustrate, but you need to cut out unnecessary words. That's where the problem is, where it's building up a lot of space in your sentence that you don't need. Sentences feel watered down, like you have to do a lot of work to gain a little information. Back to the whole concept of you don't have a captive audience just waiting to hear what you have to say. Don't make them do more work than they have to do, because if you do, they're not going to be as interested in reading what you have to say. They're not going to be as interested in listening to your speech or reading your blog posts if they have to do a lot of work to get to what you're trying to say. Good writing is dense and concise. The words in the sentence work hard instead of making the reader work hard. And then I also like this part at the end. Sometimes wordiness results from a desire to cheaply meet the minimum word requirement of a writing assignment, and that is something that all students are guilty of, myself included, as a college student. But really the point of a word count is to get you to say something meaningful in those 600 words. So make sure that you are saying something meaningful instead of just adding words to increase the word count to meet the minimum requirement for the assignment, because that kind of defeats the purpose and honestly wastes your time a little bit. Okay. So this is a collaborate board. So it's gonna ask a question and you guys can type your answers and everyone's will show up here and it'll be all cute and post-it notey. So what is brevity, which that's the title of this presentation, and they talked about it a little bit in the video. So write your own clear and concise definition. See what I did there? Clear and concise. You guys don't think I'm funny.
They don't think we're funny either.
That's okay. Maybe it's just, you know, it's waiting for the teacher. Is everyone else getting that too? Or is it working? It works for you? Okay, let me see yours. Waiting for the teacher. Oh, okay. You already posted it? Oh, maybe this is what I want to do, because I have to approve them. Making things to the point and concise. Good job. Clear and to the point. Neither of those were yours. See if it lets you do it now. Oh, okay. We'll let you reload the page. Making a sentence understandable in a few words. Good. Is anyone else having issues with theirs? What's it? You got it? Okay. Good, good. I have 2 more. It's like I'm getting emails that I'm just like anxiously waiting for. Words that get to the point and show confidence, great job. To keep something short, good. Not using unnecessary words, not wordy, to the point. Making sentences shorter for using stronger words, good. Those are all really, really good definitions. Having a sentence make sense. Who choose those? Who is that? Oh, y'all are gonna tell me who it is. Mason. You're disgusting.
It's not Mason this time.
No? This time? Was it usually him?
Well, it's a possibility, but
it's a possibility, okay. Alright, is anyone still typing or do you guys want to go ahead and move on? Okay. Oh, I have 3 more. To the point. Good job, Heavenly. making your words make sense. Brevity is to get straight to the point. Good job.
I gave an example.
You gave an example? Let me see. I think brevity is the correct way of typing a story, newspaper, article, and a speech for or on a team. It helps you make your sentence flow and more clear. An example, the wind was making her hair move like a willow tree on a bright summer day. Thanks. Good job. Using the exact words needed to make a point. No more than you. Was that you? What's your name? Sky, I'm sorry. Did you do yours yet?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sky with like 8 Y's on the heart. Okay, I got you. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next slide. Oh, this is the last thing. This is just a Shakespeare quote from Hamlet. Brevity is the soul of wit. It's super ironic. Has anyone read Hamlet in here?
No.
You did parts of it? So the guy who says this is named Polonius, and he's very long-winded, so he says way more in here than he always needs to, so it's ironic, because he's the one that says this. Brevity is the soul of wit. He says, so I will be brief, but he's not being brief. So that's the joke there. So, for the rest of the period, you guys are gonna have times to work on your research project. So this is a perfect opportunity while you're writing and revising today to think about this. So just look back over what you've written so far. Ask yourself if anything is too wordy or if there's any way that you can revise, you can reword things to make it more clear and concise. And if you want anybody to read over what you have so far, you can ask me, Mrs. Stalder, or Mrs. Bender.
Here.
There's like 8
Yeah, I'm here.
English nerds in here that will help you. So.
Or a friend can read
Yeah.
it as well.
So yeah, just ask if you need help.
I know, I gave it to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I met with you too. I talked to you about your paper. Well, I was at that yesterday. And yes, we did. Bible related, correct? Mm-hmm. Yes, he does.
I'm sorry.